Hey everybody, welcome back to the Momologues podcast. So based on our Mom Guilt podcast, Megan and I had Janelle Molony reach out to us, and she actually connected with Megan's struggles and journey with Emma and her autism. And I think one thing Janelle had mentioned was like the 8 hours a week of therapy. Janelle reached out because she is actually an adoptive mother through Foster Arizona. And she authors the blog adoptiontolife.com. She released a book on adoptable faith beyond foster care. And I love this. She refers to herself as an intentional autism parent. So, Janelle, welcome to the podcast. And if anybody doesn't know, I'm rambling here. I do have Megan with me here today as well.
Hello, everyone.
And Janelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Megan. Yes, that's right. I was fortunate. I don't know if that's the right word. I was fortunate enough to become a mother through the foster to adopt process. And in that short story, I was meeting this little boy that I was told was absolutely perfect, no medical concerns whatsoever. And then within 5 days of knowing him, that wasn't true. That wasn't true. So in my story and in my life in general, we are unraveling who this person is and re-identifying with sort of our core selves and who we are as a family and what we stand for every single day. And so, yeah, I really do relate to that constant, where are we at today? feeling when raising a kid with special needs. So thank you for having me.
You are welcome. It's interesting that they said like perfect, wonderful, no problems, no whatever. You said a couple of days. What did you notice?
Oh my goodness. So I feel bad when I see other parents. Okay, I'm going to just go off on this rant. I feel bad. I see these other parents at the park and they've got a kid and I'm like, oh, that kid's got something. Okay. I know that's super wrong and you're not supposed to do that.
Judging.
Everybody does it.
I know. And then I want to say something like, psst, there's therapy for that. But that's awful. No mother wants to hear that. So that's the same type of experience that we had where it just didn't stop. And I would notice maybe tics is what they would be called now. But initially it was so many biting his fingers, biting not just his nails, biting the skin around his fingers, having to rub or flap or rock or wiggle too much. Like it just didn't stop. Like other boys stopped. And for my son, he didn't. And that was really confusing for us because in all the foster parent training, they explain, okay, look, this kid just got removed from their family. They're freaking out. This is horrible trauma upon trauma to lose your family. And now you're put in this home and it's like, ta-da, new family. That's crazy. As an adult, can you imagine someone just says, hey, Wendy, today you're not going to be with your family ever again. You're going to go live in this other family, start a new job, go to a new school, and then at the end of the day, they're going to say, did you make friends? And be fine. No. So they prep us for, all the anxiety is going to skyrocket. Okay, well, yeah, that did happen, but it didn't stop. It didn't stop after the 1 week mark. It didn't stop after the 1 month mark. And we thought, when does this settle down? So it was really hard to discern what's normal. Like we had no baseline because of the trauma continuing to influence us. But in the process, I think the biggest thing for me was watching him start school and seeing how far he was behind, but not just academically, but like skills. So to even draw a straight line, he could not. He could not draw a straight line. And so he was 7 years old, and I thought, well, this is something kids can do by now, but he could not. His fingers, his eyes could not, no matter how much effort the teachers put in. The letters made no sense. The numbers made no sense. He could not cut. He could not, it made me so frustrated initially. And I feel guilty now. I still feel guilty every day, but I feel guilty now that I was like, what's the problem? just cut a circle, and he could not. And so those being hit with those realizations of cannot versus does not want to is what really got the red flag flying of, hey, wait. Is it true that he actually cannot?
How old is he now?
He is almost 12 now with a cell phone.
Scary.
It is. It is. Yeah. So he's been in therapies forever, for 5 years now. We put him in therapies right away because, I don't know, in my mind, I was like, fix it, until I realized, well, some of these things just are.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a hard pill to swallow, but I had to come to know and accept who he was and what he was able to do completely as is. Like if he was an adult, if meeting you, Wendy, meeting you, Megan, I would just accept you as is. I would not start to pull apart what your deficits are. I would say, oh, that's just who you are. But unfortunately, in my new mommy head, my ignorant new mommy head, I was like, what is wrong? I'm giving him everything he needs. He's in therapy 20 hours a week. He's doing all of these things, but not making progress. It must be me. It must be the therapist. It must be, I don't know. At some point I was like, oh, maybe I'm not praying hard enough. Like these thoughts are crazy.
My daughter is 8, and we started seeing things when she was about, I would say, 6 months old. And even now she's 8, and I still have is this normal? Can she fix this? Can she act differently? Or is this part of who she is, and do I need to accept it? And so I still struggle with that even to this day, and I probably will for the rest of her life.
Right. I do wonder how much I don't know if fix is the right word, how much can improve or how much can become more appropriate. But I think once I hit my head with that thought enough times, and we get to a point where we're like, you know what, this is not going to change. For example, sensory issues. So we just learned that he is light sensitive. And I think this is crazy because he's never been light sensitive in the past. However, he has not been able to communicate these things in the past. So now he's telling us, yeah, I'm light sensitive. I don't like the lights on. He says he can feel the lights on his body. He can feel them in his head. And so this is a very highfalutin thought to me. Like, I think that's esoterical. You would write a poem about feeling lights in your head. But for him, it's very real. And it takes a while for me to accept that as real because it's something I can't understand. I've never felt that. I have no idea what it feels like. And the only way he can tell me is, yeah, I don't like the lights. And so we went through like beating ourselves up and, oh gosh, what do you mean you don't like the lights? Put some sunglasses on, turn the lights on. Like, what's your problem? Just do, until we realize, okay, here we go again. That's real. And once we take that's real moment and own it, then we can turn the entire situation from negative to positive. So now we can say, hey, you know what? We go to a church that has like lights that move. Bring your sunglasses to church. Feel better. And once we start accepting what's up, instead of trying to fight it and fix it, he's happier, he's healthier, our family's not dealing with meltdowns, he's not so fatigued, and all of a sudden we get to a place of like peace, which is so simple, but it takes a lot of my self-doubt, my actual doubt in my child to be dug through. I have to dig through that. And of course, he's becoming defiant now, as those preteens are. So how much of it is defiance and how much of it is really true?
Trying to figure his way out, and it's probably fairly, the world is scary enough for kids who don't have autism or have some sort of challenge, and to bring that into it, who would think a normal natural reaction, let's turn the lights on, right? And now we have the lights are giving me anxiety, they're hurting me, they're bothering me, like that's something on top of friends, on top of sports, on top of school, on top of everything else that the child has going on that they're learning just so much about every day, it's an added stressor. And I know that Emma's got a lot of, added stressors to her life as well.
Right.
Yeah. So we've had to adapt. Just even, I did decide to go back to work and I stayed at a job, but they have allowed me to come home come home so that when she gets off the bus 3 days a week, I'm home. And just something as simple as that, having one of her parents home every day has calmed her down. She has much easier evenings. At first we really wanted to just kind of push her. Oh, you can handle after school, figure out your own way to adapt to an after school program. And it's like, again, accepting this is how she is. Now let's try to accommodate. And then of course, as a parent, you worry what's going to happen. How's this going to translate into real world, into when she gets a job, or is she going to be able to get a job? But I'm not going to say she will figure it out, but we will help her to adapt as she grows older, as we have since she was a baby. So we'll figure it out. It just takes.
Yeah, I do go into that frenzy, the future frenzy, where I worry, especially with the job. But then I think, okay, I'm an adult, and if I am cold at my job, I'm always cold, I bring a sweater. If I don't have a certain skill that I need for my job now, I got a job as a newspaper journalist, which is cool. I have to now do extra research to understand what I'm writing about. So as an adult, you just do it. If you're missing the skill, you go get it, or you ask for help. Or perhaps if I end up doing a podcast, I'm going to ask an audio person to do the editing because I can't do it. And it's ridiculous for me to think now my child can't ask for those things. When he turns 18, he absolutely can ask for and get help with virtually unlimited tasks. So it's hard for me, even we homeschool now, but even in the school, when he was in school, they were like, well, we can only offer this accommodation and that accommodation, but none of these other ones because, we have 30 other kids in the class. And I thought, okay, well, in the real world, he as an adult can have anything accommodated. Work laws and, HR laws and all this stuff, they protect, but not in the classroom, which is just unfortunate.
I was actually going to ask you if you chose to homeschool because he was having difficulty in school, with accommodations and stuff.
Yes, we had to fight for that. So in the foster system, this child is very clearly not yours. You are not an authority that can modify their IEP, their school, anything. So I tried. I didn't know this at the time. So I tried. I went to the school and I said, hey, look, we're dealing with some significant anxieties. He would come home and not be able to speak words. He would be so physically exhausted from the stimulation and the internal stress. He would be babbling and gurgling and all of these things. And I thought, what happened? What happened today? I thought something terrible happened. Nothing happened. He just went to school and the sounds were too loud. And the children they touch. And the teacher yells, which is not true. He's learned teachers have this teacher voice where they talk over the children's head. But in his mind, the teacher's yelling and it was just too intense. So I would go in and I'd try to advocate for him. And at that time, we didn't have a diagnosis. So it's almost like I'm blowing smoke. This crazy lady who's not his mom, who has no legal authority to even be here and speak these words, is in our face telling us we have to fix this stuff. I was escorted off of the campus. So we had to get to a place of safety because my son could not continue this. It was torture. He wasn't learning. He was coming home and everything was a mess. And we were already a brand new family exploding all over the place with what are we doing? What are we doing? So I had to talk to the state and get permission from them to say, please, I will just figure this out. We will do school at home. And California doesn't really allow that. Well, I don't live in California anymore, but California requires you to be attached to a school. So we found a school where the teacher meets with us once a week, gives us all the work. We do it at home, and then we report back to her. So they were okay with that because a teacher would be teaching, even though I was the one teaching.
You were checking.
Right. So it was like a half agreement. And in that process, I could allow him to have a meltdown 20 times a day. So even just to hold the pencil was very hard. And he would drop the pencil constantly. And if he dropped his pencil constantly, he didn't get in trouble like he would at school. It was, okay, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. And I could do that. He could cry because he would tell me his stupid eyes couldn't see the words. Okay, well, then let's adjust. Let's take a breath. Let's take a walk. I accommodated him in all of those unlimited ways, and he was able to make academic progress, but also developmental progress. We were able to find alternative ways and empower him with new ways of thinking or approaching a task. And the school was fantastic. So he wasn't able to write. He could not even speak full sentences at this point, but he made little pictures and videos to communicate his understanding. And to me, I think, again, as an adult, if I was going to prove to you I understood something, I actually have an unlimited amount of ways to do that. I can design a building, I can make a YouTube video, I can write a letter, I have unlimited ways. But in the school, it was write the paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Still like that.
I know, it's so unfortunate. And my son, that is not how he produces his knowledge. And I think, okay, as an adult, he can use speech to text anytime he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. I mean, we don't even read books. We listen to audiobooks and have podcasts. We don't even read anymore. So why am I expecting the same thing, like insanity, expecting the same, a new result with the same stuff, whatever that phrase is. Oh, that's so many intelligent words I don't know. But I had to let go of that expectation and just get to a point where I'm like, who is he? What can he do? And let's just do that. And it was better. So in that process of allowing my home to be ground zero for all the meltdowns and all the tears and all the failures, he gained confidence in himself. He gained the ability to learn because he was at peace. There's no kids looking at him while he cried. There's no teacher punishing him because he couldn't complete the sentence or his letters were backwards. He was safe at home. And that remained very private because it was just me and him. So if he was having a hard day, it wasn't written on a pink slip. It was just me and him.
Right.
And I could help him through that. So I love that experience. And I got to tell you, it was great for 4 years. But we're super looking forward to getting him out of the house now. I don't know if that's a normal, like in a marriage, they call it the 7-year itch. So we're in our 5th year of homeschooling, and I'm like, okay, I want a job again. I'm so jealous, Megan.
So is your plan to get him back into school?
Yes and no. So it's sort of typical to those that are on the spectrum. He has what they refer to as splinter skills. So he is academically superior. He is smarter than me in math at this point. So he is progressing rapidly in math and science to a point where I even hired a tutor. We are kind of like, whoa, he just gets it. And he is, as I mentioned, 11, and he has already finished Algebra 1, geometry. He's going to start Algebra 2. And I'm thinking, at this point, why not get him into the community college? Because he's done with high school biology too. He's done with all of his high school math and science probably in the next 12 weeks. So why would I keep going? Because I cannot do this. I'm a writer, not a mather. So yes and no. It doesn't make sense to put him into 7th grade at that point because he's not going to be satisfied. They're not going to give him what he needs academically and stimulus wise. So if he can he's done with the high school stuff. If he can actually go to the community college and start, why not? But that terrifies me. Oh my gosh, my 12-year-old. And I already agreed. I said, I'm not going to sit in the classroom. Mommy's going to sit outside and read a book. My anxieties, or work. I don't know. But then in the meantime, I can still work at home with him with the like splinter skills. So the skills are fractured. So with the low 4th grade reading ability, so we can still work at home, and his deficits are not exposed. He's not going to go to a math class and be expected to read at a college level. It's just numbers. So at home, he's still reading at a lower level, and we're working on that. So he will get the best of both worlds if we pursue that path.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, my daughter is really excited about writing, actually. So you'd probably be her hero. She loves writing, and her expression is all through drawing and all of those things. So she actually gets frustrated at school, and you have the patience of a saint to be able to homeschool. But I can't imagine doing that, really, honestly. But at the same time, my daughter wasn't at the extreme as your son, in that she was still able to come home and communicate. She's tired, she's exhausted, and we give her her peace. But she wants to go to school. She actually states, we just had break, and she did not want to be on break. She wanted to go back to school because there's a schedule. She knows what's expected of her. And she can express those things to us now. She's now at the point where her teacher is very yoga, Reiki, just very Zen, and likes to touch. And my daughter turned around one day and said, "Please don't touch me."
Oh, yes, win.
Just don't do it. So she's been very good about now starting to express, or when she is starting to advocate for herself and say, this is too much. It's too loud. Can you help me? And so far, the school and the teacher have been great. But unfortunately, I've heard rumors and from other parents that as she gets into middle school, it's going to be harder for those accommodations. And for children, my daughter doesn't have the splinter skills. She isn't excelling in one area far more than another. So she stays pretty much on par. And so a lot of the school now, to continue with those accommodations, we worry that they're not going to allow it. Mm-hmm. And so if that were the case, what's going to happen in the future?
I hate the is it diametrical, like you have to look a certain way, you have to struggle so much and be failing so dramatically to get help. But if you just need a little bit of help and all of those other things, those areas are sort of normal or average, you can't. You have to be at this point of severity.
Yeah, like a catastrophic level.
Yes. And I remember advocating, I would say fighting. I remember fighting with the schools over this and saying, look, he cannot write the sentence. This is not going to happen. You have to allow him to use speech to text. He can say the sentence. Mm-hmm. And there's a visual processing, or not quite dyslexia, but a visual processing disorder where the words won't come out and the hand cannot produce them. And so they said, oh no, only people with visual, like blindness, can do that. And I said, oh, so my son needs to lose his eyesight in order to get help. I don't know. I don't know about that. It's just, I have so many opinions.
We all do.
And I mean, like for both Megan and I, we moved to our respective neighborhood because of the schools, and that was something that was really important before my kids started school. We were like, well, if they're going to start kindergarten, we want them to start kindergarten in this particular school district because of all the offerings. And then, I mean, obviously for Megan, it's been even more of a blessing. But then, yes, that what if and what comes as they get older. And I mean, I worry about middle school as it is. And I can't imagine even my kids handling emotionally what's going on, and with structures and schedules and emotions being exacerbated by situations. It's terribly scary.
Mm-hmm. And as a parent, how do we learn to live in the moment, no matter what your child is or has or anything? Like, how do we live in the moment and stop worrying about the future? Because sad as it is, maybe a future won't happen. So many crazy things can happen. And so why can't I try now to really just live in the moment and try to meet Emma where she is, and my son too, where they are now, and try to enjoy or work through or anything right now. And that has helped tremendously to just be today, one day at a time.
I actually think I need to be better about that, because I'm always thinking about the future and like what I'm doing to shape them as they get older, like give them the skills that they're going to need when they get older, or to deal with something when they're later in life, or next year, or when you enter middle school. I don't think about necessarily so much the moment now. I feel like I'm always in a teaching mode, always like, this is my job, I'm supposed to prepare you, as opposed to just enjoying them right now for who and what they are at this stage. And trust me, I'm constantly asking, is this normal? Is this normal? Like, should they be doing this? Like, he's making weird noises. Is this a normal 6-year-old thing? Like, when do the noises stop? You know, when does my daughter stop thinking she knows everything in the world? Don't think that's ever going to stop.
No, she's not even a teenager yet.
But yeah, I mean, I think living more in the moment, in the now, and Janelle, I think you've brought that to the table so much today, and it's a good message across all parenting too. It's not just for autism. It is a capability versus, an ability. And they may be, able to do it, but they're not capable of doing it, or however that
they
works.
Want to do it.
They want
Absolutely.
to do it, yes. But they can't, so I don't know. It's the eternal parental conundrum, I guess.
Right. I've called it a tornado, where, you see the Tasmanian devil, and he's stirring up, and it's chaos, and it's outrageous when they have their moments, whether it's having to do anything with disabilities or just tantrums, and they're having their moment. It is a tornado. It's not a flood. So it's not going to soak in. It's just like our emotions when we get really mad in traffic or in the school pickup line. I'm really glad not to be part of that anymore. But in the school pickup line, I'd be like, no, you're not supposed to turn left. There's 14 signs saying no turning left, and now you got your kid before me, and I'm out. I'm livid. So those kind of things, those are also just tornadoes, because once I pick up my kid, then it's gone, and I'm done. It's not a flood. It doesn't soak in. It doesn't become part of me. And so that is the image I would want people to remember. It's a tornado, not a flood.
Mm-hmm. And I love that.
It's temporary.
It is, but it's hard too, because like tornadoes have aftermaths. Everything that happens in its circle of events has an aftermath. Your kid does something to really anger you, it has an aftermath, and it definitely holds for a while. And children are very easy to let things go and just think that I'm sorry fixes things, whereas adults, I think we tend to internalize things much more. So being on their level of understanding, I think, is something that we could probably all work on a little bit more too, and not, because I'm master at staying pissed off. I'm like, 3 days ago you lied to me, and I am still mad at you. And she's like, but I didn't lie today, so
yeah. I didn't realize that wasn't just a man thing. It's just a person thing, where you can just let it go. Mm-hmm. I need to practice that constantly. I do what if your kid do this? I don't know if I'm just guilt tripping my son. So he comes up and he says something outrageous, and it's just a total lie. And I go, really? So if you're an adult, your kid comes up and just flat out lies to you, what would you do? And he'd be like, I would. And he gets so mad at his invisible kid that he doesn't have. And he gets so, they call it parentified. So he has all of these things that he's planning to do to his kids. Woe to them. So he gets upset. And then I look back at him and I said, but you just did it to me. Like, why? So I do put that into perspective. And I don't know if he's quite old enough to truly understand that what he wants, that respect, love others as you would have them love on you. He doesn't understand that he has to do that first. Right. It's not an aftermath issue. It's a first issue. So I want him to get to that point where he's doing the right thing now. We're not there yet. I'm just flat out not.
I have absolute confidence you will get there, though, just in this, half hour we've spent together, and everything that you've taught, I think, me and Megan and probably all of our listeners too. Hearing your perspective inside of the story and what you're going through, I don't think is that much different from anybody else. Right. And the way you've stepped forward for your child is just really, really admirable and something that I think all of us can relate to.
Definitely. And actually, I'm now very interested in reading your book. So can I get that on Amazon?
Yes, it actually is.
Awesome.
I'm going to post, so we're going to wrap up here with Janelle today, but I'm going to post all the links to her book and her blogs and everything on my website. So once the podcast posts, you can go to the blog section and we'll have all the resources there. You can follow her on Instagram, and give me your Instagram, Janelle, again. Is it Adoption to Life?
At Adoption to Life. It's a play on words. It sounds like a prison sentence, but it's also hopeful.
So you can follow her on Adoption to Life, and then you're Adoption to Life. No, you're JanelleMolony.com, right?
JanelleMolony.com. That's my author page. Yes.
Yep. So everything will be in my blog. But Janelle, thanks so much for coming on and like reaching out after you did listen to the podcast. It's awesome to know that, you know, we're reaching other people out there who are having similar but different experiences. And the reality is, as parents, we can just all relate. Period.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Thank you, Janelle. Have a great day. And everybody, give the Momologues a 5-star review. Write us a note if you love it. And like Janelle did, please reach out to me, because Megan and I love having guests. I don't know if you guys want to hear us babble on every week. So come on the show and talk about your experiences, because we've all got different ones. So thank you, Janelle, and thank you to all of our listeners. And until next time, have a great day.